Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. Welcome to another installment of this year's Hannah's Bookukkah, where I post for all 8 nights of Hanukkah. Yesterday, I talked about 7 classic books which are being released in beautiful new editions. Today, I want to finish that discussion talking about another 6 editions, books either recently published or forthcoming in 2025 that I'm very excited about. As I said yesterday, although these particular editions are new, the texts are very much not new. They are either classic books, depending on how you define that category, or lesser known works that deserve new attention. And all of these editions are accompanied by new introductions, either written by literary stars or literary scholars. So let's get started. The first 3 books are all published by the imprint EVERYMAN'S Library. I really love books in the Everyman series. They tend to be impeccably made, with not only silk ribbon bookmarks, but acid-free paper and foil stamping and decorative end papers, etc. They have beautifully designed covers, too. The first Everyman's Library edition I want to bring to your attention is the stunning collection of nonfiction works by James Baldwin, including his masterful The Fire Next Time, written in the heat of the Civil Rights Movement and every bit as relevant now. The collection also has Baldwin's Nobody Knows My Name, as well as other work. This particular edition came out this past summer in celebration of Baldwin's centenary and was edited by Addie Glaude. I was first introduced to Glaude's work with his book on race and religion in the Building of the Nation, but he's written quite a bit about Baldwin as well, and I especially like his book Begin Again, about the power of Baldwin's thought. Next, let me mention the second Everyman edition of Joan Didion's nonfiction. Didion is definitely having a bit of a moment herself right now, and I think I'm going to be talking here at some point about both someone else's memoir, in which she plays a big role in helping the main character come to know himself, and a new audio recording of one of her most popular books, as well as a couple of other books that lay out some of the history of her life in perhaps unexpected ways. More on all that soon. The Everyman edition is a bit different. I adore the title. I write to find out what I am thinking. I know some people think and then write, but for me, I often do my best thinking while I'm in the process of writing. Apparently, Didion felt the same. This volume contains The Year of Magical Thinking and Blue Nights, her 2 books about grief that are still extremely widely read. It has other material too, including much of her reported pieces, as well as her book called South and West, about 2 cultural regions of the U.S. that the blurb author calls, by my least favorite word these days, iconic. I think this volume of Didion doesn't come out until later in the year, maybe September, and it will have an introduction by Griffin Dunn, author of this year's The Friday Afternoon Club, who was Didion's nephew, I think. The last Everyman I'm going to discuss is the volume I really want for myself. In fact, it's something I think I want to write about, A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf, in an edition to be released in just a handful of days. And guess who wrote the introduction? I mentioned in my video yesterday that I love the work of the critic and professor Merve Imre. And in addition to writing supporting text for 2 of the books I held up yesterday, she wrote the intro for this one too. To be honest, I'm not sure I know how to write a written piece for a straightforward review site about an older piece of work and its author, but I think I'm going to give it a try. If it works out, I'll share a link when it goes up. And if not, you'll probably hear me talking about the book here on my channel. I mentioned to a friend recently that I remember reading A Room of One's Own alongside Carol Gilligan's In a Different Voice back when it came out, and found the parallels and the contradictions between Gilligan and Woolf fascinating. I think I may need to try that again and maybe add in Carol Gilligan's update in a human voice, which came out maybe last year. The last classics imprint I want to mention is the Library of America. I have a few of their books, some with the classic black and white covers, and a few others with hardbacks and simple slipcases. Although I am perfectly happy to bring home one of the black and white volumes whenever I spot one at the library book sale or elsewhere, what I really love are the slip-covered ones. I want to show you just a couple of real favorites of mine from the Library of America, although neither one is a new release. Both of them, in fact, were gifts from one of my favorite readers and editors, a person who has access to one of the best used bookstores in the nation. One of the books focuses on Eudora Welty, a Southerner who, in the mid-20th century, wrote some of my favorite short stories and novels, as well as one of my favorite memoirs. I love the beautiful book with its bookmark. The other volume I want to show you is the Library of America version of Sarah Orne Jewett. I mentioned her yesterday because her short novel, The Country of Pointed Firs, is one of the new re-releases from Smith and Taylor Classics. But this includes some of her short stories and nonfiction work as well. But let's move on to some new Library of America books. First, I'm thrilled that this past autumn they released a composite volume with 4 of the novels of Ernest Gaines. It includes the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, one of my favorites when I was a young reader, that talks about the life of a black woman from the period of Reconstruction in the U.S. until the Civil Rights Movement. It also contains A Gathering of Old Men and A Lesson Before Dying, and one I've not read, My Father's House. Gaines often writes about the experiences and perspectives of black men in the United States during the 20th century, especially the way the legacy of slavery continued to impact their lives. Highly recommended. In general, Gaines writes in a style that is clear and moving. I guess moving in both senses, emotionally resonant, but also the words just fly across the page. The second Library of America book is one I think I need on my shelves, and that's a volume of the works of Helen Keller that was published last year. It includes not only her memoir about growing up deaf-blind in the 19th century, but her other work, including her political speeches and essays from later in her life. Many people see Keller as heroic because of her approach to her disabilities, but most of them have no idea that she became an activist for a variety of issues, including women's rights and workers' rights and racial justice and peace. The Library of America edition is edited by the scholar Kim Nielsen, who has also written a wonderfully thoughtful and readable analysis of Keller's life. And the final of the new Library of America volumes is one that contains much of the work of Margaret Fuller. In my video a couple of days ago, I mentioned that I'm planning to write a formal review of the new nonfiction study, Bright Circle, about women in transcendentalism. Margaret Fuller is a pivotal figure in the book. She is fascinating, and the work in this volume includes not only her Women in the 19th Century, which is often considered a foundational document of American feminism, but also her account of traveling in the Great Lakes region and arguing for better treatment of Indigenous Americans. Also included are many of her reviews and other published essays, as well as some of her unpublished writings from letters and journals. This volume was edited by 3 scholars who study Margaret Fuller, including Megan Marshall, who in 2014 won the Pulitzer Prize for her biography of Fuller. The Library of America will publish it in February of 25, I think, and this book will find a place on my bookshelf shortly afterwards. Okay, that will do it for the second part of my discussion of old books coming out in new editions. Thank you all so much for joining me today here on Hannah's Books. See you soon, tomorrow, for the 6th night of Bookukkah.